Are you ready for the Law of One Consciousness with Edgar Cayce? 2026 is the transformation, not because there was a date set, but because all the signs are here. I'm going to give you the signs in every area, from health to abundance to science, and I'm going to show you what's happening that's actually working in our favor, but only if you go into the unity, the one consciousness. Now, I just want you to remember something. Everything is possible under the one source. Everything. All probabilities exist. That means there is a probability of peace, abundance, health, everything you can imagine. And when we focus on it, and I will show you how we do this, then that will appear in our reality. It will be a dimensional shift. There's no date anybody can give you. You and I will create it. If you do not focus on that and you go into fear, you will create that and say, see, nothing happened. No matter what you hear from anybody who does tarot, channeling, remote viewing, their own thoughts are a part of that delivery. Remember that. And they're only choosing one possible outcome. So no matter what you hear, there's another one. And if you prefer the other one, you create it. Yes, you hold that power. We're going to go into this. I'm going to talk about what's happening here in every area and how the consciousness is now not woo-woo. It's the law of one. It's quantum physics. It's science, and even scientists are recognizing it. Will you join me in the law of one unity consciousness? Let's talk about what's happening in 2026. According to Edgar Cayce and what we're seeing, let's go. You're definitely going to want to hear this. We're going through the dimensional shift as I speak. There are things taking place as we see, not just more conflict or things seem to be falling apart. This is the collapse of the old ways. Now, I'm going to talk to you and walk you through every area of what is changing, what you can expect, and there are wonderful things happening. Now, I talked in the last video about how we must personally go through our own cleansing, and that's not a bad thing. So don't fight that. Edgar Cayce spoke of this, that spiritual transition of the individual. That alone is going to affect everything. Now, I'm going to talk about Cayce's predictions of cataclysmic events, of that spiritual transition. I'm going to tell you what we're actually doing now in consciousness that is controlling that. And we are now learning that we're doing that. We're embracing it in many ways. I hope to introduce you to that today because we have control over every event on this planet. Yes, we do. That's not woo-woo, that's scientific. So here is a critical message for humanity. Are you ready for this? Welcome to Landria Onkka on YouTube. If you're wondering what's going on with me, I had my tooth pulled. It is all swollen, and I had a reaction to ibuprofen. I'm swelled up, but I'm here for you. And this is a message that I must get out. So if it's a little late today, my apologies, because 2026 will mark a monumental dimensional shift. It's characterized by the collapse of outdated societal institutions. All right, when we see the predictions that have been made by Baba Vanga, Dolores Cannon's, other beings, Edgar Cayce, even remote viewers now, I want you to know that within all of these predictions lies the control of the egos. Sometimes, well, most of the time, from the very people who give the messages. This is why we must be cautious about remote viewers. I'm going to do a video on that because through every energy field, every expression, everything is included in that. So even the channeler or the remote viewer, their personal ego and energy field comes through in those predictions. So once you watch that, but what does that tell us? Well, if their energy field's coming through that, then mine must be. And that's what you're going to learn. And that's what we're starting to grasp, that we do hold that power. If you saw my video on Chris Bledsoe, he was an abductee who started seeing this lady who was giving him predictions of the future and some guidance. His son, Chris Jr., commented on my channel. If you haven't seen that, go to that video and see. And he basically thanked me for pointing out that, yes, his father made pure predictions from the lady, but that there were no actual dates. He was pushed to give dates of which certain predictions would take place because of outside forces. I want you to know this. There is no one date. No man or woman can know the time or the day. Only the Father himself. Yeah, well, we are one. So we will create that date. Now, let's talk about this collapse of institutions and the exposure of global power structures. The exposure is happening. We must see it for what it is and let go of our attachment to that old world that we may have supported because you're a Republican or a Democrat or you're this religion or you're this color. That has to go out the window until all forces come in together as one. We cannot go into the golden era complete. There will be those that fight. We're going to talk about that today. What's going to happen in finances, health, every area of our life. What I'm going to talk today about is fueled by increased solar activity and plasma ejections. Those are positive things that are actually affecting us, as is everything else that is an electromagnetic field. They are catalysts for a higher state of human consciousness. We separate those as separate events that are bad, and that's just not the truth. In fact, Edgar Cayce spoke of this, that we could actually stop cataclysmic events. It's reacting to our negativity and conflict. When we pull back on that, she calms down and she heals again. It's time for us to heal. A major focus of this era is the reinvention of healthcare, moving away from sick care toward creative, holistic solutions rooted in emotional and spiritual well-being. That is happening now. You have these abilities. I'm going to give some examples of how Edgar Cayce healed people. These are the forces that are increasing now that we have access to. Miracles will be the everyday events, and while the old paradigm may attempt to maintain control through threats of war and rage bait content, the awakened collective will transition toward sovereign, integrated leadership. There are forces right now creating the new world, not watching that fear-based bait. Are you doing that? It's meant to keep you in fear-based mindset because that collective that goes into that feeds our whole energetic field and keeps us down in that basement. Remove the fear, observe it. I encourage you to navigate this period of unprecedented transparency by focusing on personal creative projects and maintaining peaceful, detached sanctuaries. So 2026 is defined as the year of a full dimensional shift, moving beyond the timeline split of 2025 into a new reality. It's coming into fruition. In other words, it's manifesting in the material world. This is what you will see. This transition involves a paradigm shift where coercive institutions that do not serve the best interests of humanity will begin to crumble. Just do not entangle or participate in, and your attention is entangling yourself in that. You actually place your energy to it, even if you're saying it's not right. That is still conflict. Let's talk about the physical and metaphysical mechanics. This shift is physically manifested through increased seismic activity, geomagnetic storms, and cosmic radiation. The increase in plasma directed toward Earth does more than destabilize electromagnetic fields. It acts as a medium for a shifting dimension. All right, so that's a good thing. Large plasma ejections from the sun are seen as metaphysical signs of ascension, opening portals to higher dimension versions of Earth, or the fourth density. For souls that resonate with those frequencies, others will be fearful. It's happening to us. We're doing it. And it is generating an energy field, and it is disrupting electromagnetic fields in a very positive way. Don't worry, this is not to fear. The full exposure of the cabal, a central thing for 2026 is the complete exposure of the cabal or dark occultists, those who choose to live in the lower frequencies. They're choosing that. While previous years involved connecting dots in small pockets, 2026 is the year that the whole chessboard is lifted, leaving no more room for hidden agendas. No more hidden agendas. You're going to see more and more come out. And actually, no matter what lies are being told, we're just not believing them anymore. The majority of the collective will begin to accept the truth of how these groups have controlled society behind the scenes in much bigger ways than you can imagine in every area of our lives. It's all built for a small percentage of people. I think we know that. We're in control. There's nothing to fear or point fingers at or be angry about. It just is. And now we are changing that. Let's talk about healthcare from sick to health. The current system, described as sick care from toxic management, is being replaced by institutions based on new consciousness. We're seeing that happen. There will be massive increases in energy healers, quantum practitioners, and somatic work. Alchemized offerings, psychologists and therapists will begin to alchemize their offerings, moving beyond traditional talk therapy to integrate spiritual transformation and higher metaphysical truths. Let's talk about Edgar Cayce. What did he do to heal people? And by the way, this is not just physical, this goes into every area of your life. And it comes down to the belief because you're the co creator. You hold the power equally amongst all people who also hold equal power. Just remember, you cannot override free will. So Edgar Cayce, this was his expertise, where individuals applied the law of unity consciousness to achieve what many would consider impossible. They go from a state of separation into unity, and it resulted in physical and material transformation. Instantaneous eye healing. He had a man that was completely blind following a construction accident, so this was serious. He sought a reading from Cayce after specialists declared his condition permanent. Cayce informed him that the accident had not damaged his eyes as much as it had damaged his belief in perfect vision. Remember, this applies to your finances, your health, your relationships, your belief. If there's an incident that happens on this planet, you may believe this is what's happening. We're going into this horrible space. It's the apocalypse. And so if you believe it based on an incident that is actually the crumbling of the old systems, you can convince yourself of something different and create that. The man was instructed to stand before a mirror every day, declaring, I am perfect vision, expressing as eyes what God created as perfect cannot be imperfect. This is you. You are perfect. I tell you that on every video. He was told not to merely hope. We have to go past hope for sight, but to recognize it as an existing truth. All right. So there was no time here or dates or what date will it happen. It had to do with his conscious shift. This is how everything works, including the entire planet. And these dates of predictions we always talk about, I tell you, they're going to come and go because you're waiting for it to do something. And it is all relying on us to create that date. And dates are irrelevant. The shift itself is what's happening, and that's the most important thing. His eyesight began to return within 6 weeks, and his vision was completely restored in 3 months. So that's where the time factor happens. This is why it'll take some time to clean up this mess that we created on Earth. Allow that. But every moment of every day, it is transforming. Know this. Sometimes it doesn't seem that way when you look at it. Let's talk about a woman who was cured of terminal cancer. A woman was given weeks to live, and Cayce explained that her cancer was an expression of cellular confusion. By the way, the whole planet operates this way. Everything you don't see operates this way. So your thoughts and your beliefs are going into this unseen known, creating cellular confusion or quantum confusion. This was caused by her consciousness of separation from the life force. We must connect to the life force. You and it are one. Do not speak to it as a separate thing. Yes, you have a higher self, but it's not separate. It's just your expansive self into that space that's beyond this little brain that tries to make sense out of everything. She practiced a unity meditation for 1 hour a day, recognizing that the same intelligence that beats the heart and heals a cut. Pretty miraculous, right? Was flowing through every cell. Her breakthrough occurred when she realized she wasn't a sick person trying to get well, but a perfect life temporarily experienced confusion about itself. You already have the wealth. You already have the beautiful relationships. You already have peace in your life. You have the healing. You have the perfect health. It is the belief that there's something else there. Perfect life temporarily experiencing confusion about itself. There are thoughts out there that things aren't okay. Veils and stories, they're being removed, but it takes your effort. Within 6 months, her oncologist could find no trace of cancer. Let's talk about sovereignty, leadership, and war. Threats of war in 2026 have been characterized as desperate attempts by the old paradigm to maintain control over the ascending timelines. That's a control tactic. And war is never acceptable, not in the new earth. You can say, well, it is now. Well, actually, if we don't end that kind of reaction to solve problems, we'll never go into the new earth. So humanity is being tested to use its sovereignty, that's you and I, to stand against war. Well, not against it so much, but to create a peaceful environment. That's my interpretation. So when you go into peace and prayer and sending light and love, and then doing things creative in your personal life, changing that job or that relationship, or knowing that you can be abundant, or curing yourself because things were off whack, once you go into that, you actually affect everything. And we become the leaders in this new sovereign world. The new leadership will no longer be recognized based on traditional power. Instead, the ascending collective will only accept leaders who demonstrate the integration of mental, emotional, and spiritual intelligence. We get to choose those people, but they will not act as one in power. They will empower the people and speak with us. AI psychosis, for those in the ascending timeline, the AI psychosis that began in 2025, it's going to start to wear off. Descending timelines may see an escalation of the AI grooming agenda to merge into AI and cyborgs. Both timelines will experience increase in rage bait. To navigate this, you must form peaceful sanctuaries away from social media. There's an ad here in the US, and it shows the 50s and 60s even, and kids of our era are asking, well, how did they get a hold of each other? How did they find out what they're eating? They didn't take pictures of their food, and there's this whole slew of things that we do now that's acceptable that is really sort of baseless and mindless. And that era without technology forced us to interact with one another. Now, I'm not saying that was a better era, but it certainly allowed for communities to become closer. And we're going to go more back into that and use technology in positive ways to aid us in things that we don't need to be doing. Our electromagnetic field is actually participating in that. We're going to see the full exposure of the cabal, the collapse of coercive institutions, the reinvention of healthcare. The more you see that, the more you're going to know that we are entering that era bigger and bigger and better. From sick care to holistic energy-based systems, I'm seeing that big time. People want healing. They don't want anything slapped on it. However, sometimes it must be done. I got through the night from this ibuprofen that unfortunately did this to my face. See, not very natural. We're going to see the emergence of the sovereign leadership, and the divergence between ascending and descending timelines. Quantum practitioners are going to play a vital role in building the new earth by providing creative solutions rooted in higher consciousness and metaphysical truth, which serve as the living template for the new paradigm. So there are leaders putting this in place, and I encourage you to go after the things that you have talents and skills in. We're going to reinvent healthcare as the old sick institutions described as toxic management begin to crumble. Quantum practitioners, healers are going to step in to reinvent. These practitioners are part of a broader movement where traditional roles such as therapists and psychologists undergo a spiritual transformation to alchemize their offers. All right, so even these institutions are not going to go out, they're going to change how they handle this. Now, this is really interesting because We're going to have practitioners help humanity transition from being groomed for sickness by old systems to activating sovereignty and health through mental, emotional, and spiritual intelligence, and that includes financial abundance manifestation. So, so a struggling artist facing eviction and bankruptcy was told by Cayce he was not lacking abundance, but was abundance itself temporarily experiencing amnesia. He wasn't in touch with it. The application that Cayce gave him, he stopped trying to get abundance and started being abundance. You've heard this before. I know it's not easy. How can I feel and be abundance when this is going on? Well, that will end when you stop focusing on it and seeing a future that is not one that you prefer. He was acknowledging the creative force of the universe in form. The result, within days, gallery owners began contracting him for work. He was an artist, and within 6 months, he was financially comfortable. So that brings us back to the one consciousness. Edgar Cayce predicted that science would eventually discover that consciousness is the fundamental force, not an energy field separate from us, but consciousness, which is all things, which is us, from which all other forces emerge. He viewed quantum physics as the modern validation of his spiritual revelations regarding the law of unity consciousness. His teachings relate to quantum physics, validation of the one force, what quantum physics refers to as the field, the underlying matrix from which all particles emerge, is remarkably similar to that which Cayce called one force, or God. The observer effect, I talk about this. Cayce's principle that consciousness creates matter. Consciousness, you're creating the matter, the thoughts and the beliefs. You're in control of it. All right, you have that free will. It's mirrored in quantum experiments showing that awareness influences what manifests at a subatomic level. It's happening right now. What you're thinking and feeling right now, that anxiety, whatever, is actually creating. Quantum entanglement, this scientific concept, supports that Cayce's core teaching that separation is ultimately illusory. It's illusory. Do you know this about Cayce? He said these things as it reveals how particles remain connected across space and time. There's no time. They react simultaneously because they've never truly been separated. The paradigm shift, while mainstream science historically operated on the materialistic premise that matter creates consciousness, Cayce asserted that mental and spiritual forces determine physical phenomena. He believed that as science recognizes this, miracles will become as reproducible as chemical reactions. This is happening now. Recognize it, know it. Quantum concepts are now entering mainstream thought. So we've got the scientists stepping down saying, you know what? This is true. And our experiments prove that. And this is signaling a cracking of old materialist paradigms and making room for the spiritual laws that Cayce revealed. Cayce saw these scientific developments not as a challenge to spiritual law, they're not separate, but proof that miraculous manifestation is ultra natural, the natural result of consciousness operating according to its true unified principles. So we talked about Federico Fagin's scientific and philosophical theories on consciousness. This is the guy who created the microprocessor, who is a total materialist, had that event where light came from him. He wasn't asleep, and he connected with the consciousness of everything. And now he speaks of the unity, the law of one, of which Cayce spoke of. Mind is the builder. For the one to know itself, it must also possess consciousness, the capacity to know, and free will, the drive to know, the drive to make those decisions. Otherwise, we would just be here as automatons. Making the decisions and the choices is critical because the one is holistic and cannot be divided. It fulfills this desire for self-knowledge by creating a multiplicity of part wholes or individual conscious fields, which he calls the seities, each looking at the one from a specific point of view. This process is described as reproduction of one, where each part contains the potential knowledge of the whole. This is happening, and Cayce has predicted it. These cataclysmic events or what he saw at that moment. We change it at every moment. And he talked to us going into a huge spiritual conscious awakening and that would take us into a new era. He talked about the collapse in between when these horrible things he saw were supposed to happen, the transition, the cleansing, and then, of course, the rebirth, the creativeness of all of us focused on just that. And I've seen a switch on YouTube of people, they're tired of the fear-based information. But as I said in my last video, you may go through what you feel is darkness. It's actually your own transition. It's actually your own purging of the things and the patterns you may still be doing that are not working in your favor. And that's that true belief in going into that field, and everything levels out and it starts to work in a unified way that can heal, that can provide miracles for you. Now, we talked about dates. There are no real dates. And Chris, if you're watching this, thank you for watching my last video and making a comment. Chris Bledsoe Jr., he said that he did see beings with little red eyes and that he would now start stepping out and revealing more of that story because he has held a lot back. Let's face it, it's not easy to be in that position. But I want to share something with you. Let go of the dates. And those predicting things out there that are cataclysmic, they are picking up on that within their own conscious field. I'm going to tell you why. Everything is possible. If everything is possible, then what you see is only one probability. What the channeler sees is only one probability. What the remote viewer sees is one probability that they personally are tuned into. This is why the whole government thing stopped remote viewing the future, because it was all over the place and they realized the consciousness of the person viewing it was affecting what they saw. Are you ready for this? We're going to transition into something amazing. Those of you who would like my private coaching, I have a link down there and a discount for you. Let's spend some time together, and it's just a session, and maybe we can clear up some stories in your head, and I'll give you some practices to do that. If you haven't read my book, we're in this right now. When I wrote it, we weren't in it. This was 2024, December, and that was the start of 2025. We're now in 2026, the transformation. So go ahead and read that book. It will make sense because I talk about the unity and the consciousness of one. I hope that you will subscribe and share my videos. Be prepared for these changes. And as you see, especially the healthcare switching, you'll know how deep we're going into it. And that even though these other things are happening, because those institutions are going to fight and scrap for what they feel is valuable and they built, well, you can't take it with you. Watch it fall. Do not fight or separate yourself from anything. Send light and love. Only compassion towards others truly heals. That's what happens here. You don't fight the cancer or fight this, right? That never works. What happens when we heal is we become unified and we send our light and love to those parts of us who are off whack, and we go into that healing process. This happens in every area of your life because you are whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. I'm going to go deeper into this. Today, I had to scramble because, yes, I'm swelled up. You should have seen me yesterday, but I'm doing well, friends. Thank you. I'm healing quickly. I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.